And then it just became reinvent yourself, be a brand new me. Not that I had to release everything, but release those things that was hurting me and holding me back so that I could move forward. Because they always say you have baggage to carry, and we do.
Mhm.
I've just learned to unpack it, take out the things I don't need, and put in the new things that I do need.
Welcome to Surviving and Thriving, the Black Experience. Here, we talk about the real adversities Black Americans face while navigating corporate spaces, educational institutions, and the justice system. We name the pressures, expose the barriers, and share strategies to help you adapt, endure, and move forward while protecting your peace. So, let's get into today's discussion. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Surviving and Thriving, the Black Experience. I'm your host, Candace Renee, and here on Surviving and Thriving, the Black Experience, we focus on the real conditions Black Americans face while navigating adversity in corporate spaces, educational institutions, and the justice system. We name the pressure, the barriers, and how these experiences shape mental health, opportunity, and long-term outcomes. We provide strategies that show you how to adapt, endure, and move forward while maintaining peace and keeping self-preservation in mind. So, if you're navigating adversity and trying to rebuild without losing yourself, you're absolutely in the right place. I need you to go ahead and subscribe and stay with this conversation because this space exists just for you. Today's guest is A.M. Hunt. Hi, A.M. Hunt. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Hello, wonderful. She is a speaker, a writer, and an advocate whose work lives at the intersection of resilience, faith, and lived experience. With over 25 years of experience in child welfare and human services, her voice is shaped not just by what she studied, but also by what she survived. Her book, These Ran Over Shoes of Mine, reflects on growing up unseen, learning survival early, and discovering that resilience isn't about how fast you move. It's about staying on your feet long enough to choose a different path. I'm so grateful to welcome, Lord Jesus, to welcome A.M. Hunt into this conversation today. So, hi, A.M. Hunt. How are you, love?
Hi, how are you? Glad to be here. Glad to be.
Wonderful, wonderful. I am so happy that you are here. I cannot wait for us to, in fact, dive into all of this. I have been waiting for this conversation. So, before we talk about your work, the amazing things that you do, your book, and where you are now, I want to start here. And can you share a moment in your life where adversity changed you in the sense of like you having to find your footing before you can even like think of what next to do?
There was a time um in my life where I thought it was secure. Like there was no fall. There was no reason to change. And then this shocker came where entity that I work for was like, yeah, we no longer lead you. We're going to eliminate your position after 20 years. I'm like, that kind of look.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, where do I go from here? Because I'd been there for so many years. I had dedicated so much of my life to that job. Never like before. I mean, I'd done longevity on jobs, but not like this, where I gave a lot of me in sacrifice of like family and friends and trips, just normal living.
Mm-hmm.
Like my work life balance was probably 85%, 90% work, 10% that's kind of hard to admit,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what it was. And when that announcement came on the heels of maybe me speaking up for myself,
Mm-hmm.
is what I thought it was about. It threw me for a loop. It pushed me back. It really kind of deepened the hurt.
I appreciate you sharing that part of your journey and where your resilience began is what it sounds like to me. Um, in this current season of your life, what feels most grounded for you? You had something that was very shaky. So like what feels grounded now?
Two things. One would be the ability to share my story and help others along the way with maybe some things they're dealing with. And starting my business for my future, my child, which is my future, uh, to ensure that she has something that if she doesn't want to do what most consider the 9 to 5 or the worker bee status, that she has something she could take a legacy
Mm-hmm.
to move on with for herself if she so chooses.
I think that's absolutely amazing that you're not thinking about yourself in the time of the here and now. Because so often when you do go through an adversity, you can become stuck and in that survival mode of what do I do? What do I do? And you can't even really think outside of it. And but as you just said, like you're a mother, so you still had to navigate and still, live life, and make sure that you're okay and your mental health was okay in regards to what was going on for her.
Yes, but don't get me wrong, there was
Mm-hmm.
a time after that firing, I was kind of stuck. I'm looking around like, okay, now what? Because the skills learned there don't actually translate into what I wanted to become in the business world. Just a
So,
few of the skills did, but not all the skills. So there was a time when I was dazed. I'm just gonna be honest,
yeah.
dazed. And my mom was like, listen, you have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. And her being a union rep, fighting for the underdog was her thing. And she was like, you can't let this get you down. You have to show them that you were built to be resilient. From the projects, you've come up a long way. You went to prestigious colleges. You've done well for yourself. You don't let them determine your life for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that had me thinking. And I look over at my child and go, yeah, I gotta do this. I gotta.
It sounds like your mom had that what we call that unshakable faith and that
Yes, ma'am.
unshakable foundation. That's absolutely needed in our community. Absolutely.
Yes.
Um, how would you describe this chapter you're in now in regards to surviving and thriving? Um, and or in somewhere in between.
I find it fulfilling
Okay.
if that translates. I went from feeling lost to being filled up. Like this is what my purpose was all along. Yes, I was doing it under some agencies I worked for, but
Mm-hmm.
now doing for myself makes it feel real, real and authentic, uh, and the pride that I could take in it. It's like strengthened.
Where did you find that resilience in that moment when you said that I went from like having like being fulfilled, the understanding of what's taking place and things and such. Where did you find that resilience to keep pushing forward?
Long nights of crying, waking up, not knowing what direction, until I just said, you know what? You had a good product that you produced, and it must have been a good one because it was reproduced. So take that and build upon it. Plus, all the staff there encouraged me for years, saying, you should be out on your own. You should
Mm-hmm.
be putting this further than just here. You've
Mm-hmm.
helped so many people. And they've come back. I still host a group of people from a couple of the agencies or entities that I worked for before,
Mm-hmm.
from various aspects of where I've worked from before. They contact me consistently for advice, information, and just general talk sometimes.
So it sounds like they were able to, you yourself and them were able to kind of bridge that gap because you still had like connections who believed in you in general. Because a lot of the times people don't talk about that when people end up leaving a position or a role or are asked to leave a role in all different aspects and stuff. They never really think about the actual I'm going to say the emotional harm and or the emotional stress that things like that in fact that what happens within that space. So they don't think about the actual emotional harm that's done once you're in fact left having to rebuild. No one really
No,
talks about that rebuilding period of having to, the metaphorical bootstrap. Matter of fact, the metaphorical bootstraps that you talked about, can you tell me what those are?
it's like I had to turn inward and say, okay, what are your talents? What is it you want to leave in the world? To, like, for instance, my career and my education is not in journalism, it's not in writing, but I've always been a writer from an early childhood. My education is in computer aided drafting, which in that thought, I said I want to leave my mark on the world physically. And when that didn't manifest for me, I just stuck with the job I was in, complacent, because they had made me so comfortable. But then I began to realize by some things that people were saying, like, you deserve more, you are more. So when it came time for that change and I had been released, I had to look back and say, okay, what is it that you're good at? What is it you can do to make you full force? So one of those bootstraps was, okay, start writing again for release. Number two is start being more creative, going to your more artistic side. Even though I wasn't operating under my education, I still had the ability to draft. Then there came your speaking. Absolutely can fill a room and speak very well and convey my message very well that people seek me out afterwards. So I that was another one. And then it just became reinvent yourself, be a brand new me. Not that I had to release everything, but release those things that was hurting me and holding me back so that I could move forward. Because they always say you have baggage to carry, and we do.
Mhm.
I've just learned to unpack it, take out the things I don't need, and put in the new things that I do need.
Okay. I'm about to say, look, well, that's a wrap because that one right there, that's it. That's literally it. That aspect of having everybody has baggage. No matter everyone is in fact has some type of adversity, but understanding how to unpack it is very important. So it is not dimming your light and or stunting or stopping your potential. Because just like A.M. Hunt just said, you literally have talents. This is talking to the audience, by the way.
Mhm.
You have talents. Understand what you want to do. What are you good at? And this is very much, I really love how you, in fact, said that. So, can you tell me, we're going to look into like when you were growing back, we're going to go back a little bit in regards to when you were growing up. So, what did you think adulthood was going to look like before, of course, you grew up?
Education and finding a good job.
Okay.
That's what it looked like to me. Because that's when you come from the projects, which a lot of people don't know, everybody in the projects isn't poor. Everybody in the projects isn't uneducated. There are a lot of educated working class people that sometimes choose to stay there. Not that they particularly need to be there,
Mm-hmm.
but my grandmother was a preschool teacher. My mom worked at the post office. She worked at General Mills. My stepfather was a manager. My dad would work for, and this is going to date us, the old IBM computers.
Mm-hmm.
He did tech repair on that.
Okay.
So it was always instilled in us that you're going to get an education because I was put in private school my whole
Mm-hmm.
life. You're going to get that education and you're going to get a good job. They didn't care what, but you're going to get a good job. You're going to make use of the money we are investing in you. Everything was an investment in us. So when I grew up, that's what you do. You get the education and you get a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Although they taught us how to invest in money and buy stocks and bonds, having your own business at the time, because there was six of us, wasn't a thought. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
become a thought to after half of us had grown up and my mother started her own business. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of went from there. Like, okay, I could do that. She
What
said
I
she could do it. She did it. So I could do it.
what I also say is that that was a blessing that you had, that you came from that lineage in regards to your mom actually later, it sounds in life, in fact, creating a business, and having that instilled with you in regards to understanding stocks, bonds, investment, and things of such. So I can tell you personally for myself that that's not how my family, like how I was raised in regards to I didn't learn about investing and things until I became grown. This wasn't something that was, and I know for quite a few people, investments, stocks, bonds, even, I mean, I've even sat here and heard stories of people not even understanding what a bank account is or how to get a bank account. And not because they have a background, but this is not something that they're taught. And I think breaking it down and going back to the basics of it, having to understand that not everybody is raised the same way is kind of what I feel has been like this pendulum in our community to a certain extent, in regards to the access of information and thinking that, oh, the access to information has to in fact something be something that's so grandiose that someone is just like holding it as a gatekeeper to it. But no, there's actual basic things in regards to just living that people are not aware of. But I think that's very much a blessing that your family did give that information and understanding about investment, saving, and things as such. Um, I do also understand the concept of being brought up with that, get that good job, get that education, and that entrepreneur stuff kind of comes like later in life, so I also can understand that as well too. So, was there an early moment where you realized your path might look different from others around you? Or when was that?
As early as my grammar school years,
Okay.
it I had choices. I could stay where I was in the projects,
Mm-hmm.
or I could move on. I could give what my grandparents and my mom was trying to give me and move on. So my trajectory looked a lot different from those around me, where teen pregnancy was an issue, drugs, gangs was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that my mom wasn't going to let us be that. My grandmother wasn't going to let us be that. So I had to choose path B, get my education and get out and move on.
So I have a question. So you said that like essentially that you grew up or pretty much were raised in the projects, right? Can you
Uh-huh.
explain to like people so that they understand like what the project is? Because I feel like superficially, people think of the projects and of all these disparaging, situations and this, and other. And you and your family are the proof, right? That needs to always be seen. That yes, there are sometimes deplorable situations in the projects, but there are also in fact, families who are actually working, striving, and trying to do different things. Can you kind of break that down a little bit?
Absolutely. Living in what was called Outgale Gardens at the time,
Hmm.
Outgale Garden Murray Homes, initially built to support service members, but then was opened up to the public because of public funding. A lot of individuals there had husbands or brothers or sisters who had served and were able to get in, and then the community was opened up to the public. But people there went to work every day. It was a sense of community. If things went wrong, you knew. Like my grandmother was the matriarch of our family, but she also was an inspiration to a lot of other people's families. It was like, those are Miss Ball's grandchildren. Oh, Miss Ball is my favorite teacher. So she inspired a lot of kids to do what they were teaching us.
Hmm.
Like, do this. Don't don't let your life get wasted away because you don't have hope. Because there is hope in living in poverty. Again, not everybody that lives in the projects is in poverty. Not everyone there is on welfare, as many would like to believe. Not mean there are not people that are just there to just don't want anything out of life. Sometimes, like you said, they don't have the skills. Like I said, there's life skills and life enrichment. If you don't have life enrichment, which is the emotional part, you can't learn the skills because you don't have that hope within you to know that learning these skills along with having that hope is what lifts you up and out.
Okay. Was there something from your upbringing that quietly shaped how you move today?
I think being privileged in the projects, sort of in a way, that it made me recognize, like in hard times, how to survive and how to survive in good times. So any adversity that comes my way, I could get through it because I know how to adjust. As they say nowadays, pivot.
Mm-hmm.
on how to do that. So I could, if I'm down and out without a job, which at one point I was twice, I
Mm-hmm.
could pivot. I could still live comfortably. Like when I left my first job, when they let me go, the day they let me go, I picked up my truck at midnight the night before, and everybody at work was worried, like, "How you gonna pay that? How you gonna pay that?" I Trust me, I got this. I left with
Mm-hmm.
no bill, just the truck note, an
Mm-hmm.
expensive truck note, but
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, I was I was okay.
Nevertheless, I got what I
You know,
wanted.
like, here's some tissue for you all. You all are crying more than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Comfortable, but I had left with them knowledge of how to be like I was. And to this day, there are a couple of people who call me and say they appreciate the information I gave them that was given to me so that now they live comfortable in their retirement years or in the jobs that they are. They don't stress over not being able to have.
Can you talk about, as you're using the word knowledge, that really stands out to me. Can you talk about the importance of keeping your intellectual properties and or protecting your intellectual properties?
A lesson I learned a little late. I wish I had known more in depth about it. I knew the surface of it. Like, I know if you do something, use a poor man's copyright. That's where you mail something to yourself because it gets a postmark date on it. So I knew that from my mom by her working at the post office. What I did not know is also take it to the copyright office if you can. Poor man's copyright is fine, but a better thing would be to have it copyright written through the Library of Congress. That was something I learned a little too late, which let one of my projects get away from me, which I had to in turn learn how to again pivot to a more modern book. What you see here is this one right here. It's very similar to what they had, but I consider it a better version because now it incorporates all types of learning, which is what I talked about. It incorporates life enrichment as well as life skills so that you learn to keep pivoting and moving forward when times aren't as they're great and when times are at their best.
Some of the hardest lessons in your career will never be in the handbook. They show up in silence, mixed signals, shifting expectations, and or when you're blamed for not knowing rules that nobody ever explained. Too many people walk into professional spaces thinking doing a good job is enough. But the truth, doing the job and understanding the environment are not the same thing. That's why I created Classes in Session The Real First 90 Days, a 3-part digital workbook series created to help you navigate what people should have told you from the very beginning. This workbook teaches you how to recognize what's really going on, protect yourself with strategy, communicate with more clarity, set those necessary boundaries, and most importantly, how to help you stop doubting yourself in spaces that were never designed to make things easy. And even if you didn't know that you needed this before, once you see the blueprint this workbook gives you, you'll understand exactly why it's absolutely a necessity. You can purchase each part separately or get the full bundle on my website or just click the link below. Get your copy today. Absolutely. And can you show your book again to the audience as well? And then where can they actually purchase your book?
This one can be purchased off of my website. It's called the ABCs of Life. It's a 365 or the 30-minute, 52 weeks, 365 days a year workout for your life, which means it meets you where you're at. It's not a book you start at the beginning, the end, middle, wherever you need to start, you can start in this book. It leaves a legacy for your children. It leaves a guide map for those who might need it later in life, like a cousin, a niece, aunt, uncle, friend, whoever. And it's not, people say, I have to do a lot of writing. No, there's pages in there for you to draw, write, sing, watch movies, read other literature, because I'm not above people reading other literature or finding what they need in other genres. So this book incorporates that for all those who might need that guidance or just that little push over the up, that uplift.
Okay.
And
So,
then
go ahead.
and then you move on to the other one, which is the backdrop to this book. even though this one is first, these ran over shoes of mine is the backdrop, which kind of helps you understand the importance of the skills. This is the enrichment. These ran over shoes is the enrichment,
Mhm.
but this is the skills.
Okay. And I'll have a link to both of those books also within the video as well too, and also in the description for the audience to in fact be able to see it as well. I cannot wait to read the ABCs of Life and then to in fact read the Ran Over Shoes because now it actually makes sense, of course, too. Yes. Can I wait? At what point did your personal experiences, especially ones that shaped how you move today, start to feel like something that needed to be written down versus just carried? So, in regard, I know you kind of touch bases in regards to um the separation, right, from the company, agency, organization, or whatnot. Is that what has you start to feel like I need to write this down, or had you already been having like the feeling of I need to write down my experiences, I need to write down what I'm seeing? What led you to actually pen and paper or
I've
pencil and
always
paper?
I've always had the idea to write it down,
Okay.
just never had the time because again, that work-life balance kind of prohibited it a little bit. But it wasn't until we conducted a seminar session with a group that we had at an agency I worked for, where, where it really became profound to me that this needs to go further. This session revealed some things that just like blew me away. I mean, I had thought of it before when you're dealing with um, children in care,
Hmm.
but you never think of it sometimes in depth the way they did. And the
Okay.
one session we had, just I was like, okay, this has to be told because other people deal with this. Just children in care may deal with it a little bit harder because not only are they dealing with everyday growing up, they're dealing with everyday growing up sometimes in foster care where they may never go home
Hmm.
and they lose things and they don't have people to guide them sometimes. Um, and unfortunately, that's how our system works sometimes. So at that point, I knew this is something that had to be written. Definitely.
Okay. What has consistently motivated you to keep going, even when life feels unfair?
I don't want to lay down per se. I don't want to be a doormat for anyone anymore. Like I said, I have children. I have grandchildren. Yes, I have grandchildren. See those gray streaks right there. But I don't want to lay down. And all my life, I've been taught to keep moving, keep going, keep striving. There's always a pivot point, and that's what I taught them from a young age. My grandson, he always said, "I'm gonna start my own business." Then, okay, absolutely. Let's make you some business cards. What is your business gonna be? He said, "Finding lost toys for children." Amen. Let's get you started. My
Hmm.
daughter, she went to sit out on the driveway and sing songs for Mother's Day as people drive by, so they could put money in a cup for her. Absolutely. Yeah. Let me get your business cards ready. So things like that, and like to have her sit at a Las Vegas, you know how you go for those timeshares,
Hmm.
and they can't sell us a timeshare because she knows like if we give you this money, what is my return on investment at the age of
Hmm.
8?
Okay.
Like if my dad pays all this, then what do I get? And the lady's just telling, well, you get to stay at these fancy hotels. And she's like, but I can already do that. What is my return on investment? What am I going to get back in terms of money, time? What else is there to offer me? And for them to say, okay, I'm done. And she wasn't talking to the first salesman. She was talking to the echelon salesman, the
Hmm.
one who go, the closer. And they
Hmm.
had to say, let them people go. Yeah, that's not gonna work when an 8 year old can tell us she need a return on an investment.
Right. Right. But how amazing is that okay, so if we map this out, right? You had your parents who in fact worked, they were on the grind, did exactly what they needed to do. They taught you, investment. They taught you these different things, how to save. They taught you how to, in fact, how to ask questions and things and such. And then look at your lineage as it's gone down to your grandbaby at 8, sitting there asking these questions of what is a return on investment? When the
Oh, that
last time anybody heard a baby talking about what is the return on investment?
that was my daughter. She said it with a serious face. That's why they had to let us go. They was like, get them that little $300 card because they mean business. Because an
Mhm.
8-year-old tell you, they was like, y'all raising her right. I said, I know.
This is what people are scared of. That right there. That actual that knowledge. That is why I truly feel that they are, they'll say the powers that be, right, are cutting these access to information, trying to cut history, trying to make sure people does not have access to things because you can't just pull the wool over no more. You can't just sit here and say something and say, oh, that's what I said and that's what it is. No, actually, that's not what it is. This is what it is. Truth.
Yeah.
Truth is what it is.
That's where that truth
Um,
to power, speak truth to power comes from. If you don't speak
Absolutely.
the truth, you don't have the power.
That is absolutely true. Um, so where do you, I know we kind of touched base on this, but where do you think your inner drive comes from? Do you think it's more or less in regards to necessity? Is it also just your faith, responsibility, or is it something else as well? Or is it that all in totality?
I believe it's all in totality, but in hierarchy totality, totally. I believe that my spirituality is the strongest part, the ability to believe that I can make this happen. Um, then just out of necessity, like you can't live in this world. You don't want to just be a part of the world. You want to thrive. You don't want to just survive. You want to thrive because you can survive at any level, but are you happy at just surviving? Yes, you may be, but you also have to have that drive for thriving. Thriving means you're enjoying it, you're living it, you're in your purpose, and it just feels right and authentic to you. And that's what keeps you going. It's like a circular hierarchy because then you circle back around to your faith and say, because I have this faith, I have this resilience. Because I have this resilience, I'm not only, you know, living and striving to live, that I'm thriving. And because I thrive, I live off my spirituality. So it just keeps circling back around. And the more it circles, the higher you go. It's like an upward spiral.
Okay. Make sure I take notes on that. Okay. So when you're tired, what reminds you not to quit and not to give up?
I know this sounds self-centered, but
Okay.
me, I I I don't want to lay down. I don't I don't want to sacrifice my God-given talent and gifts. Because I always say this joke to people, and some people get it and some people don't. But I say if we ever end up in front of the pearly gates and we're talking to the angel at the gate that's going to help us cross over, I'm not going to be standing there trying to account for you. I'm going to say, hold on. I got an explanation for what they did because I'm be too busy trying to account for myself
Mm-hmm.
and what I've done in life. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to waste my talents. And I know that's not saying one way or another. That's the joking part of it
Mm-hmm.
because we don't know what the afterlife holds for us. But that's what keeps me going to know that I have to take on the responsibility for the soul that I've been given. And hopefully that I'm in purpose and I'm doing what's right by my fellow man and my fellow earth all together. Because I believe that everything on this earth was given to us as a gift, even our souls, and we need to take care of it.
Okay. So you spent decades working with families and with youth. So what first pulled you into that work as a whole?
Now that was necessity.
Okay. You're like, oh, let's put that where they go. Necessity was there. Okay.
It was necessity. I was leaving a retail job that I worked for years,
Mm-hmm.
and coming out of college. For anyone that's graduated from college, unless you do an internship or you have a company you can run to right away, you usually have that little gap in time where you got to go look for that job, that real job that's going to pay those student loans and debts that you come into.
Mm-hmm.
So this one came up. It wasn't far from my home. It allowed me flexibility. So I applied so I can have some money in my pocket to survive off of, literally, to pay my mom rent while I went to go look for a place to live and to pay the student loans and my car note. So out of necessity. But then it grew. It grew to a love because it touched my purpose. It wasn't quite fulfilling, but it touched my purpose. And I felt, like I said, I began to be complacent because it was filling that aspect somewhat for me. But all along, I still felt that there was more. There was something more I needed to be doing because things would come up that would indicate that I need to be doing more.
Mhm. Okay. What did serving others teach you about yourself?
That I'm a pushover sometimes, a lot of times.
In working in the field of childcare, aren't we all though a little bit? Just a little
Yes,
bit.
yes. I mean, I can remember nights where I have kids calling my phone, and
Mm,
I'm in the middle of the night, like, oh Lord, I got to get up tomorrow, go to work. They might not have to get up, but I got to get up, just so they could talk, you know. Uh, but it did teach me that I know down inside that I'm a good person and that I mean well
mhm.
and that I truly believe in my values that were instilled in me, that love your neighbor, take care of them when you can, but also take care of yourself so you can take care of those in need that are less fortunate than you. You know, reach back, bring one up with you.
Um, how has being a Black woman influenced how you showed up in professional spaces to help?
This is what I say about that. I always tell people I'm simply complicated. And I know that's an oxymoron, but the simple complication comes in, whereas I can enter a room and I can put on that facade that requires that room. When I read the room, I know how I should make the approach. But there is a side of me which a lot of people would say would take me back to where I grew up at. How some of the things you do learn in the projects you
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to show in in an area in your life where you need to be more professional. So like if I have to sit with someone and have a conversation about politics, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to with someone and talk about gun violence in the neighborhood and how it affects it, I could do that. Or if I could sit there and we could talk raunchy about some stuff and raunchy people, I can do that too.
Okay.
So I'm very versatile. And that's what growing up taught me again, which is what, if you read these Ran Over Shoes of Mine, you see how that plays out in my life.
Gotcha. So, can you talk to me about a door that opened for you that felt affirming and or validating? And I ask this question because so often, even with my channel and just in general, we always talk about like the doors that closed, right? Or the
Mhm.
one that wasn't meant for us that wasn't open, or the people who didn't give a chance, or the people who overlooked. I think it's really important to draw recognition to the people who do care, the people who do go above and beyond. Those doors that actually, when you thought like, if you stay in that space of if you stay in that space of thinking that everybody is against you or the world is against you, you'll never sit here and go to that door that will open for you. So that's why I asked this question.
A door that I felt was opened to me that made me know I could do this was when I think I allowed somebody to read something I wrote
Hmm.
and they were like, this is good. Why don't you talk about it? But I couldn't because I was comfortable with being behind the shadows and in the background. I can run background very well.
Hmm.
But when they opened the door, I just had finally at that point in my life was like, yeah, I should do this. And they gave me the opportunity to talk about it. And it just felt natural. It felt good. And
Okay.
I went from there.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna ask that question just a little deeper. So you said that in that case it felt good and it felt affirming when that door was open. Were you still in a space of healing? Were you
Yeah.
still having to walk while still feeling either metaphorical pain or real pain? And or confused or in any space, and were you still having to move in that space while still not knowing exactly what the path was going to be?
Yes, I was. I wasn't sure, but I was sure. I know that sounds like the kids do this 6, 7 thing, but it's like you know, but you don't know.
Hmm.
You're still scared because you that hurt, like I spoke before, that baggage that you carry, you keep revisiting, and that bag is so heavy. You're like, but this happened to me before, and this happened. But I took some of my own advice, and I said to myself, "Girl, listen, let some of that go. Drop it and let it be, because you can't keep packing it on and packing it on and packing it on, because life has, to me, 7 simple principles that we all live by. We just don't know we do. How we live by them affects the outcome. So, for instance, if we're living by grace, the principle of grace, giving others grace, for me, it may look like, oh, I gave someone grace, but then they hurt me in the end. But for you, it may be, I gave someone grace and they helped me. That doesn't mean the next time that I lend grace, because I might be a little leery of doing it now, doesn't mean that I'm going to get that same outcome, because the person I interact with has their own baggage that they carry. And I don't know what's affecting the reason that they acted the way they did. Or I receive a consequence from an action that I did, and I go, oh, I'm not doing that again because this is what's going to happen. That's not true. The principles remain the same, but the consequences are based upon our actions and how we handle things. So if you just change just a little bit, your outcome is going to be different. And every lesson, whether good or bad, is a lesson learned. If it's something you feel was bad, you're going to take it and you're going to say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So you're going to figure out how to do it better. Or you're not going to do it at all. You're going to totally switch. Or if it's something good, you're going to take and you're going to build upon it to make it even better. Either way, you're building a solid foundation on how to move forward and how to keep, like I said, traveling. That's the idea, again, behind the book that I wrote. These ran over shoes of mine. You keep trying on things until it fits, and you'll know when it fits.
Okay. I appreciate that breakdown.
Yes.
So, what are the 7 principles that you were referring to, and how does it relate directly to you?
My 7 principles are: one, be aware, self-awareness, which means you know about yourself, but you also know there are other people in this world with you, that you're not out here alone.
Mhm.
My other one is, again, like I spoke of, grace, because we all have faults and we all fall short. So sometimes you have to be able to forgive, not necessarily forget, but forgive either yourself or the person who has done something to you. And to forgive doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I'm totally forgiving you. You just definitely wasn't wrong in that situation. It just means the ability to let go. The third one I live by is, through my spirituality, which is love. Love what I have. Very little, very lot. Love it all. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be in my life. For whatever it's worth, it is. Again, one other one I live by is, I'm not always right, but I'm not always wrong either. And people go, huh? It makes sense. You might have the right answer, but maybe the next time that right answer might not be so right. Doesn't make you necessarily wrong. It just doesn't fit into that situation. And when you're wrong, it might be wrong in that moment. And again, it might be right for another situation. You just have to know when to apply it.
Mhm.
Number 4 or 5, I think, on is just look around. Just look around. Know, like, family is there, friends are there. If you have to make you a family, make you a family. Because sometimes friends are more family than family sometimes. I mean, I'm sure people have dynamics that roll like that in their lives where friends become more family than family. And that's unfortunate. But on principle number 6 is healing. I believe in healing. It's hard and you will go through it. But just know there's a brighter light on the other side. Everything is not always gloom and doom. It might be gloom and doom in the moment, but like even the Bible tells you that there's light on the other side. And, at night it may be sorrow, but joy comes in the morning. And that's where I get up in the morning and I look at my Bible app every morning just for inspiration. And when I step outside my my house, my seventh principle is go out there and live, whether that's to make money to support my family, go out there and live to enjoy my life, go out there to live to help others, go out there and just understand you have one life, one soul that belongs to you and no one else. You have to take care of that soul. Do what's right, feels right. When it feels wrong, that inner self tells you all the time.
Every
Whether you
time.
want to acknowledge it or not, it tells you. And I just believe that if you act upon those principles in life, you can pretty much enjoy what's been God given. If God is your higher power, has given you to have.
I really appreciate you breaking that down. That just touched my spirit, had me like no crying on film. But that definitely just touched my spirit. It definitely did. Especially that like learning to live past, and I'm pretty sure there are people in the audience as well too have had to learn and navigate different, different things, not just corporate. I mean, people have had to navigate loss. People have had to navigate the breaking of friendships. People have had to navigate heartbreak. People have had to navigate like being the last to know. Like, I mean, people have had to navigate fear, confusion. They've had to navigate so many things. But I think what really stood out to me is learning to give yourself and others grace, right?
Mhm.
All these principles are great and right on target, but what stood out to me was, understanding that yes, you can be right and wrong at the same time. Absolutely. Depending on the time. I wrote it down to summarize one in regards to being observant, healing, and just being able to just live. Because taking every single experience, I know it sounds crazy, but when people be like, "But did you die?" That's a real thing. But did you die? No. So then that means that you're still given another chance to show improve, to keep on sitting here pressing, and as you said, to keep on getting up. In regards to resilience, can you talk about a moment when a door didn't open up as easily and how you made sense of it at that time?
Yeah, ooh, a lot of doors. I'm just gonna be honest.
And that's
Um,
okay.
I've I've had a lot of ventures in my life
Okay.
that I thought were good ideas and that could work. And when presented, people were like, "Yeah, no, mm-mm, not interested. No, no." I got a lot of no's, a lot of no's. Like I used to macrame as a child, and we used to sell them. This is in my Project Living days.
Mm-hmm.
We used to sell them for $1. Um, the entrepreneurial side of me did.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I wanted to like make it into a business, people was like, "Oh, nobody's gonna buy those products when you get older. You can buy those in mass production in the store." It, right now, a little 9-year-old hope, you know. Then as I grew like my teenage years, like I said, once you read these Ran Over Shoes of Mine, you're gonna understand like this process that I went through. When I got to high school, I went to high school with a private high school where most of the parents were doctors, lawyers, somebody
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. Here's my mom supposed to work, and my stepdad's a manager at Spiegel's. Okay, I'm dating myself for all those who don't know.
I'm like, I've never heard of Spiegels, but
Spiegel's was like a Montgomery Ward's. It was a mail order catalog where you can, order stuff. Look it up.
okay.
It's for those I don't know, look
Look,
it up.
I'm dating myself. I'm like, what?
So they would, they would come in with their jewelry and
Yeah.
money, and it's like, okay, Lisa, how do you go? How do you do this? How do you? But I knew I was smart. I'd always been smart my whole entire life. And I had one teacher tell me when I applied for colleges, well, you're not gonna get in that school because that's the rich people's school. Okay, I got in on merit, not just the color of my skin, but I got in on merit. And she's like, you're not gonna make it. I struggled. I did, but I made it through as much as I needed to get through there to get that experience. So that was another door that just like went by the wayside.
Mhm.
And then as an adult, sounds crazy. I want to be an airline stewardess. And I know I passed the test, but I think at the time, my height, you have to be a certain height, a certain weight to be an airline stewardess. So when they told me no, I couldn't understand. I'm like, what? But it wasn't to be. And I'm kind of glad because again, I might have been complacent in that job and it might not have been what I needed at the time. So yeah, a lot of doors were closed where people told me no. And I just like, okay, fine, okay, great. And I just kept thinking forward.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say I want to ask you and to see if you let me put this down. So I want to ask you, I would love to go ahead and continue this conversation. Are you okay with us doing a part two to go ahead and keep on diving into this conversation?
Sure, absolutely. I
Awesome,
like to
awesome.
talk. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, from Surviving and Thriving the Black Experience with Candace Renee, I thank you, and we will see y'all next week. Bye, everybody.